Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Death, Murder, and Mayhem podcast. I am your host, Liliana Stargazer, and today I will be covering one of my favorite true crime events, the Somerton Man. I will attempt to put this in order by when it was discovered. That means I will be sharing any theories or in details or anything like that as it comes up, including modern updates. Let's get started. During the night of November 30th, 1948, on the Somerton beach in Adelaide, South Australia, two separate couples noticed a smartly dressed man lying on the beach, in the sand, with his head and shoulders propped up on the seawall. This is very odd, as why is he in a very, very nice suit on the beach? The couples all assumed he would either be asleep or, just drunk. In the defense of the first couple, he did actually move. He waved as if in greeting or maybe to light a cigarette. We're not sure. The next day, two jockeys in training, while out exercising their horses, found the same man, unmoved. The two men checked on him and found him to be deceased and called the local police. As they should, the police arrived shortly after being notified. After examining him, they decided he had died around 2 a.m. that same day. He was 5 foot 11 inches tall, between 40 and 50 years old, roughly 45, had no money on him, no identification. All tags on his clothes had been removed so that the brand, size, nor anything else could be identified. In his pockets, he had cigarettes, which, by the way, the box itself and the cigarettes were two different brands. A box of matches, a packet of juicy fruit gum, and a used bus ticket and two hair combs. Another distinctive feature, he was not wearing a hat, which for the time in Australia was very odd. His hair was also done in an American style. When he was found, his cause of death was ruled not natural with no identified cause. The coroner at the time is stated to have said, "There is no evidence of violence, and I am compelled to finding that death resulted from poison, but I cannot say whether it was administered by the deceased himself or by another person's." The coroner also noted that he had a raised calf muscle like you'd expect from a ballet dancer. The authorities released information on the man through media, hoping for help identifying him, but no one came forward. They actually ended up doing a death mask of him, which is where they simply use just plaster to make a cast of his face so that they can be preserved for future evidence or whatever. Usually, these are done in memory of or to preserve evidence. One actual death mask that is the most famous is the CPR dummy was created from a death mask. Anyway, a month after the incident, the police discovered a suitcase they believed to be his at the Adelaide railway station. It had sat unclaimed for almost the exact time that man had been dead, and the station actually called them about it. They found orange thread on a spool inside of the suitcase, and it matched the thread used to repair the man's clothes. By the way, the outfit the man is wearing, as well as this thread, were both American. That sounds no duh right now, because you can buy that anywhere, but during this time, it was very, this was made in America and this wasn't type thing. And if it was made in America, you got it from America or an American. Inside of the suitcase was a shaving brush, shoe polish, a knife, two pairs of scissors, one broken, one not, a screwdriver, and other various clothes, some of which had the name T. Keen labeled inside, some ending in an E, some not. A tailor was brought in to assess the clothes and concluded it was all from the United States, supporting an idea that the man wasn't from the Adelaide area. The case went cold until May of 1949, when a pathologist named John Cleland re examined the corpse and discovered a rolled up piece of paper hidden deep in the man's pants pocket. It's actually implied that it was in a hidden little pocket, one of those smaller, weird ones. The paper had two words on it: Tam should. Persian for it's finished or it's ended. This paper was from a book called the Rubaiyat. This is a 12th century book of Persian poetry made popular when it was translated to English in 1859. The Rubaiyat covers many topics like love, fate, mortality, and the transient nature of life. Very appropriate thing to find on a dead body. Later that year in July, a man came forwards and in his hand he had a copy of the Rubaiyat that had the end, Tam should, ripped out. After checking that it was the same book as the paper found on the Somerton man, the police asked the man who came forwards if the book was his. The man told him no, it wasn't his, but someone had thrown it through his open window of his car on the same day that the Somerton man was found. He actually lived nearby. The book itself had several handwritten notes and annotations, including a suspected code and the number for a nurse, Jessie Thompson, who lived nearby the Somerton Beach area where the body was found. They created that death mask I mentioned before for future identification, and when they showed this mask to Jessie, she was completely taken aback to the point of giving the appearance she was about to faint. Or so the detective Sergeant Leanne said. Even with his reaction, she claimed she didn't know him. The authorities didn't try and press her for any additional details, and the trail ran cold. And it remained cold for 70 years, with these several outlandish theories popping up from calling him a spy, based on the variety of countries and his clothings and possessions, to a ballerina due to his leg build. They even analyzed his recessive traits to try and identify him. The strongest theories is the one that's actually linked to a little boy named Robin at the time. Robin shares the distinctive ear and teeth, both of which are the recessive traits I just mentioned. Robin is Nurse Thompson's son and a ballet dancer. Derek Abbott believed Robin to be the Somerton man's son, and that Thompson didn't identify the Somerton man because she was in a relationship at the time with a man she later married and may not want ghosts of her past to interfere. Abbott searched for a living descendant of Thompson since she died in 2007 and her son in 2009, and that's how he found Rachel Egan. Egan was Robin's granddaughter. She was adopted in New Zealand, unaware of her potential connection to the Somerton man. Shortly after meeting, the man who set out to find the DNA match found a wife instead. Egan was also cited to say, "People have said that possibly Derek married me for my DNA." And I think there's some truth to that. Though the initial interest was shared, after the wedding, it seems as though they have both forgotten about the case until the body was exhumed in May of 2024. The DNA was not related to Robin as they believed. It turns out that those traits were in fact just a random match. The DNA matched to a man named Carl Webb, an electrical engineer from Melbourne. It is now believed that the supposed code in the Rubaiyat was simply just horses he had placed bets on. Webb was born in Footscray, a suburb of Melbourne, on November 16, 1905. He was the sixth child of a German-born man and an Australian-born woman. In October of 1941, he married Dorothy Jean Robertson. He left his wife in 1947, and that's the last record we actually have of him. She was actually living in the Adelaide area at the time, and she filed for a divorce under the grounds of desertion 3 years after the man was found. By that point, she had moved from Melbourne to Butte, a town almost 90 miles away. He may have been trying to find her, and that's why he was even in the Adelaide area. Maybe he did find her. We still don't know how he ingested a poison. By the way, the poisons they believed were used were ones that disappeared in the body shortly after taking their effects. Yes, they exist, and it is very difficult to find them because, as I said, they disappear. Carl Webb had a sister that was married to a man named Thomas Keene, the same name that we have seen sewn into the clothes. As for why the clothes are American, likely Keene bought them secondhand from an American soldier stationed in Australia. As for how he died, why, or even who did it, we still don't know that. Those are still massive unknowns, and that's why it's one of my favorite true crime cases, and why I chose it as the first case for me to cover on this podcast. I hope you enjoyed this mystery as much as I did. I don't think we will ever actually learn how he died or any other questions that we still have about this case, but that just means we get to keep making conspiracy theories. All right, that's all I have for today. So never forget, we can honor the victims, but never the criminal. Have a great night.